Okay, so let's talk about the image and do sort of analyzing. The scene looks pretty simple, but what makes it fascinating is the lighting. However, in 3D, lighting and shading are always together. Let's first start from lighting. So, this light, the main light or the key light, if I want to portrait it from, for example, top view, if this is the subject and this is the camera, the main light or the key light should always be in between 30 to 45 degrees distance from the camera. So for example, if I connect this line to the camera, between the subject and the camera, the main light or the key light should be somewhere around here. That's the highlight, the effect of this key light that you see here. The distance should be something like this, between 30 to 45 degrees or something like this. This is the main light or the key light that gives direction to the image. These highlights here, and it also produces these strong shadow behind the objects, as you see here or here, or these strong shadows here. But in order to have a good lighting, we need other lights as well. So, for example, these reflections here, and here on these sides, we need more lights on the opposite side of the main light or the key light. So, for example, these blue or red highlights, they are in these directions. In fact, from these directions, to give a sort of variation and beauty to the scene, to give more color to the scene from these directions. Here. So this is, for example, the blue light. And from here is the red light. They help producing these good highlights on the glasses and over everything. They give color to the scene. So if I want to categorize them, first is the key light. Then is the secondary light. But in order to illuminate the whole scene, we need an environment light as well. That we mostly produce it by the HDRI. So there is also HDRI for illuminating the whole scene. But it should be in a very low value. Because if the amount of this environment light is high, then it will destroy the value and shadows in the scene. So it should be considered as well. But something important I can also add, very important, regarding this kind of renders or reaching this painting feeling, is using the, in fact, anti-lights or light blocks. Like there are, if you notice, there are some interesting shadows here or here. There are some boxes here. They block the light from illuminating the whole scene. So as you see, there is a sort of transition here from light to the shadow. And It's achieved by putting a box here to block the light from these areas, and here as well. So another important factor is using light blocks. Also, about shading, there are some important tips I need to mention. Let's first disable these layers. First is that generally your models should be made correctly. For example, not having sharp edges. That's very important. And for the old models, using dirt maps are very important at the edges. Also for the glass, using dispersion is very important as it colorizes the glass and the areas around the glass in an interesting way. It's an interesting effect. Or also, for example, the fingerprints, not doing it in an exaggerated way, but in a way that we can see the effect moderately. Also, using the falloff for the textures or materials is very important to achieve these painting feeling, for example, in these areas. In order to have a sharper border between the light areas and dark areas, it's important to use a fall-off map. Here, for example, or here. Or for the cloth as well. Subsurface scattering, also a very important factor for the fruits or the flowers. It brings life to them. Now we can experiment them all directly in the scene. So let's jump into the scene in the 3ds Max.